Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Danter Banter. We're not doing a crypto night in Canada tonight because we don't, well, we could touch on crypto a little, but welcome to Candace from Mountain Finance. How are you doing, Candace?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing? It's really great to see you together again in the same little box.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind few weeks. Let me just tell you that. I'm pretty worn down, and I know that you've been keeping the home fires burning while I've been burning the candle at all ends. And anyways, I think that's my friend Debbie. Hi, Debbie, and Phil's here. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, no, it's been a bit of a gong show to say the least.
Well, I
And
know. I've heard that you've been doing a lot of flying. Your arms must be really tired.
oh yes, flap. Although I'm pulling myself out of the flying equation for a little while because I just honestly can't get into the fray of what's going on at the airport. So I thought maybe we would start with that conversation after we say hello to a few people. Hi, Marie Claude. I hope you're doing good. Anyways, so yeah, so obviously, Candace, you've been watching the news. You've seen what's been going on. You even said that they've dubbed it a term. So maybe we could chat about the
Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Yeah,
So
good old
you've been watching stuff. Why don't I let you lead this part?
Sure, absolutely. So basically, this all goes back to jobs. People are not working. There's a lot of the bigger airports, especially Pearson, Montreal as well. They just don't have the people to do everything that needs to be done. So as a result, if you want to get a security check, which you need to get on a plane, you're looking at really, really long lineups. And some of the issues that have been happening is that this is causing people to miss connecting flights. It's causing all kinds of chaos. Now, in addition to that, they've also been canceling a lot of flights. Air Canada alone has been canceling more than 200 flights a day. Now, most of these are flights that end in Toronto and Montreal. They're sort of narrowing on those targets because that's where the biggest issue is. And if you think it's just Canada, no, folks, it's not. It is absolutely a nightmare worldwide. Just if you just watch CNN about the airplanes, and they're having issues down there. I know my mom flew to Texas last, like on the first, and she's luckily got there in time, but she had a couple of really tense moments where she thought she was going to miss connecting flights because of just some of the crazy delays they've been seeing down there.
What does the what jurisdiction does Toronto and Montreal Airport? Is that all federal?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go to Toronto, for example, it's the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, the GTAA. But is everything in there federal? Like, I mean, if you have
all of the guidelines are federal. Obviously, the GTA, so the Greater Toronto Authority, Airport Authority, I mean, they enforce all of the federal rules, but all of the rules come federally, especially when you're looking at security. Kind of, if you remember during the pandemic, they were able to put restrictions on all of the different planes. It really didn't matter whether you were flying WestJet, Air Canada, because they all are under that same federal umbrella.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is it's whose responsibility is it to pick up the gauntlet and say it's my problem to make sure that this is properly staffed and we take care of all the problems.
Okay, well, let me throw this back at you by saying, how can you do it if nobody wants the jobs?
Right.
If people aren't applying. It's not like we're in a situation where you could go out and just pick people up off the street and say, hey, you are going to go work in the airport. No questions.
Well, and don't you think it's not that there's no people working? It's specific jobs that at specific times that nobody wants, like the odd hour jobs. Everybody's like,
weekends,
I don't want that.
Fridays.
Like our problem at our warehouse is from 6 at night till 2 in the morning. Those shifts there, those are the things that greedy.
Exactly. And even when you look at the whole labor shortage in general, that's the exact same thing. Even the retailers are finding is that they've got lots of people who want to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, but they're having problems with evenings and weekends. And that's why a lot of restaurants have had to sort of close early because they just don't have the people.
Is it really a labor shortage, or have we got lots of labor? It's just we have an employee shortage.
Well, now we're at that point where we do have an employee shortage.
Yeah.
So it's not like, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, everybody's sitting around on their butts at home. That's not the situation. We have record number of people actually working. It's just that what happened with the pandemic is people basically sat back and they said, you know what? I've been working this crap job that I hate, and I hate my life because of it. Government's going to pay me for a year or more right now. Let's learn some skills. Let's improve myself so I don't have to go back to the crap jobs. And
Have
that's
we got
why.
proof of that?
Pardon?
Have we got any proof of that?
I had a crap job.
No, but have we got any indication that people are just sitting back and going, I want to upgrade, I want to get a better job, or is it the fact that, like what Ryan says, is Ryan always goes on the premise, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been wrong before, maybe once, that they go on the government assistance and then they find this cash side gig, that they can do under the table, and to make $600 or to make $300, you have to work for $600. That saying, right?
Well,
we can say all of this, but where is the indicators out there that says this is actually happening? Like, we can't have that many drug dealers out there.
No, but let me tell you, the scenario that Ryan had painted, absolutely, that was happening during the government, when the government supports were there. All those government supports are gone.
Right.
Nobody's getting that. Even the people who were on EI, they have completely exhausted that. There's nobody right now on EI unless they actually got laid off recently. So all of the supports are gone. So there's nobody doing that anymore. Now, the proof that the people have, upgraded their skills is when you look at the labor shortages, it's all in the low end entry level crap jobs. That's where all of the shortages are, like restaurants, the minimum wage things. That's where we're not getting those people. So, but those people are not at home. They're working. That proves that they have to be working in a higher, either a higher role or just another role. Now, what the Canadian Bitcoiner said there about the side hustle industry, yeah, that's what a lot of people have done as well. If you take Ryan, since we mentioned him, he had his job and he moved into YouTube over that period of time. And there's a lot of people that have developed different side hustles. They found different ways to support themselves. So people are being creative. People are creating jobs. And people are upgrading their skills because that's where the hole is. The hole is that entry level area sector.
So, I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe even Len, if you can answer this, but are we seeing the effect of labor shortage, we'll call it, in government? Or is it because they're so not protected, but they've got a good gig going that they're not rocking that boat? Are we seeing the same effects there? I mean, because
I think so. And
because
you know why I think
I wasn't
so?
finished. I lost my train of thought. Now I'm finished.
I think they are seeing it because you look at the passport offices, it's like a gong show in there because they were displaced for so long doing that there's a backlog. Don't even try and get a Nexus card right now.
Right.
Passports are a problem. The long lineups going into anything that's Service Canada related, it is like, because all those 2 years of people not being able to get those services are now, there's just a big wave of stuff that needs to be done and not enough people doing it. But again, maybe Ken.
I know a little bit about that too.
And are you coming on?
He was on.
Was he?
He was on.
Did I miss him?
And
my God, I'm so sorry, Ken. I've missed you. Come back on.
All right. While we wait for Ken, the whole issue with the passports, they have the same number of employees now than they had before the pandemic. So they're fully staffed, but they've got this massive wave, people who haven't been doing it for 2 years. I don't know what the situation, why they're not hiring more, or if it's a situation where they're like, let's just make through with what we got, because I imagine a lot of budgets are pretty tight considering all of the money that had been thrown pretty much out the window, in supports and everything else over the pandemic. So I imagine tightening bills are tight in the government.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we have that. It's a situation where Yeah, they called it the Great Resignation. All of the people who left their, their lower end, crappier jobs.
Yeah.
But I really think what's happening though in the government is just that the government doesn't want to add the extra people to get through the backlog. I know the conservatives now are kind of like harping on that, saying that, we would hire the extra people. Let's get it done. Because I know in Ottawa, well, here, some people have been waiting in lineups that, they might start first thing in the morning. And then at the end of the day, they're told to come back the next day. That's how bad it is. So I'm just glad I don't have any intentions of leaving the country anytime soon, because it may not be an easy trek getting a passport. If you can hold off for a couple of years getting your passport, then you're probably in better shape, because they will get through this eventually.
Right.
Yeah, well, my son and I, we did our application because ours, mine expires in September, end of September. So I think it's been about 3 or 4 weeks now. We just, I went online. It says you mail it in or courier it in. It's about 9 weeks to turn around. Well, mine's in. I know it's in, and I'm not worried about it right now. So we'll see.
Going back to the conversation about having the right people at the right time doing the right jobs, like that was evident when I was flying back and forth. The reason nobody's seen me or hasn't seen me as often is because I've been traveling like crazy for work. And one of the things, and I know I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when I came home from BC, the ground crew, they don't have enough of the right types of jobs being filled. So ground crew, which is a little bit more of a dangerous job, a little bit more, hands-on. Maybe it's specialty, I don't know.
Well,
But
the big thing about the ground crew is that you can't just hire somebody straight off the street. They have to be able to go through a lot of different security checks, because that's a very high security job when it comes to the airport, because these are people who have access to, the cargo section of the plane. So you want to make sure that you're screening these people well. So that's, I think, part of the reason why it's so easy to get stuck in a situation where it's hard to fill those positions.
Well, and I think the other part of it is that I'm not sure how to say this. So, the vaccination requirements that we've all had, like, even though some of that has been let up, companies put policies in place that, if your new hires have to have this and this and this, because the belief was for a while that it was going to be required. And I think that's part of the reason why we're having difficulties fulfilling some of the jobs, is because you've got a giant lump of the population. Okay, we don't know. Do we actually know the demographic mix of the people that chose not to get a vaccination? Because if it was the younger generation that were of male of a certain age, those are actually the people that we're missing out of the equation. And I suspect that is part of our problem here.
I actually don't think so, and I'll tell you why. If it were just a simple vaccination issue, and that the people who are vaccinated weren't going back to work, we would see a larger unemployment rate than what we're seeing. So I think most places are letting people go back. Like even today in Nova Scotia, all COVID restrictions are completely gone, including if you get COVID in Nova Scotia as of today, you don't even have to isolate.
Right.
Whoa.
So they removed that as well. And I think that's the direction everybody's going to be heading into.
Yeah, but Candace, what I'm saying though is companies implemented policies about hiring people that were vaccinated. What I'm thinking is part of the problem is because those policies are in place, that's where there may be a bottleneck of hiring the people. So if you as a company didn't put that in place, yeah, you're fine. Maybe you're hiring, but a lot of companies did.
They did. I think a lot of companies have also removed those requirements now, because we're kind of in that mix where it's like, what is fully vaccinated? Is it okay if they only have their initial 2 shots, or do they have to have their booster shots? I think we've backstepped quite a bit, and I think a lot of companies have. And I think as well, if a company can't get people and they have these really strict vaccination requirements, they're probably removing them. And the other big thing is, once again, we have more people working than we did before the pandemic. So it's hard to say that that's causing a big issue. Maybe there's a smaller issue with that, but I don't think it's a big issue.
I guess my question is that
while you're doing that, what I was going to say is also, it's not just the protocols of having to be vaccinated to work in certain facilities, but there's also COVID protocols that have been put in place by some corporations. Like, for instance, you could have a policy where you felt like you had something coming on. You had a sniffly nose, all those things, the check mark of the myriad of things that they used to ask you about. If you have a fever, do you have a achy neck, head, whatever that requirement, sore throat, sniffles. So some companies who have that in place or had it in place, whether it's there or it's not there, some companies who have that, had that, what's happening in a lot of cases is employees are calling it at the last minute, I've got somebody in my household has been exposed. We're not feeling that good. I best not come in tonight. So it's not like you don't have labor, but the labor that you do have knows that a lot of the companies have that in place. And there's still that fear of going, yeah, just come in. It's okay. So people are like, you better stay home. Because I know that this has been part of our problem, is whether it's intentional or unintentional. Not sure.
Well, there will be people who will abuse the system.
Abuse the system. Guys, do you realize that these are the same people who call in with a sniffle, a snaffle, or a snip, and they are the ones that are out in the grocery stores walking around doing their groceries without any masks, around other people without any masks? Give me an effing break.
Honey, I think it's two different things.
No, it's the same thing in my mind.
No, I know, but I think it's two different things. What Candace and I are delicately trying to say is that potentially they know that this exists and it's a sunny day.
It's a scapegoat.
Yes.
Of course it is.
And so, what happens is, this is where you get whole crews at the airport not show up for a shift. And then you've got one grounds crew that will land a plane, it comes in, they get it all set, then they all get in a van and they drive to the next location because they're one ground crew or two full ground crews or three full ground crews short. They just don't have the people showing.
Ken, I would be phoning the local newspaper and saying, I think I know a guy who's had COVID the most in Sarnia. Let them do the work on that, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there will be people who will abuse it. I mean, who in chat has never ever taken a day off, a sick day, while they weren't sick? I did it once. This is a funny story, so I'll tell it to you guys. So I had planned for a sick day. It was like on a Thursday. Now, my boss at the time had a flu, so she was isolating herself. So what I did is I went and I sat with her because I never catch the flu. So I went and I sat with her. She's like, oh, you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. I'm like, no, I'm not. So then the day before I called in sick, I took some white foundation and I added just enough to my face so that she was like, you're looking a little pale. And I said, yeah, my throat's a little scratchy. She's like, I got you sick. And then, of course, I called in sick on the day I had planned because I had something I wanted to do. And then I was back next day. I'm like, oh, fully recovered. But I went through all the planning and totally turned it into a whole production. But
yeah, you did. That was very good. That was a lot of effort. I don't think most people are taking that much effort.
Well, not until now. We got 21 people that are going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so Ryan wants to. I know he's hanging out with Spooner tonight. So I can only imagine the shenanigans those two are going to get up to. But anyways, he says he agrees with me. Those people who were displaced have been left with sour taste and likely moved on. Younger males left their jobs and likely don't want it back. It's a labor-intensive job. And you know what? I'm telling you right now, I don't blame people. Some of those jobs are ridiculously hard to do. They are labor-intensive. They are exhausting. People get injured really easily. There's all that sort of stuff that goes on, right?
But you know who doesn't get tired?
Who?
Robots.
Correct. I was going to say that. Thank you for the segue. Thank you for the segue on that. So robotics are going to be a key element, I think, moving forward, because I think we've come to the point where you've got Armageddon happening. You've got executives in the warehouse dealing with, trying to. I'm not moving boxes. That I'm not doing
Why
that.
is that too labor intensive?
I don't have steel-toed boots. If I had some steel-toed boots, I'd probably move some cases. But I've only got running shoes, so I can't move anything. I'm not allowed to really be in doing anything in case a box falls on my toe or something. Then I would have to call in sick, maybe.
That would be a limp excuse.
Limping around, da, 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 da. No, so you get, in our particular case, it was about a window of time from 6 at night to 2 a.m. when we have our very specific order selectors that do an amazing job, but it's sort of specialized. You get one slight group of guys and gals that don't show up consistently in a row that can cripple the whole, logistics team. Like, it really crippled the logistics team. I can't even describe the things that I saw over the last 2 weeks. But needless to say, as I'm standing in there going, if we had maybe 10 or 15 robots in there, I would say we would not have this problem. Hands down. Hands down. Labor could come, labor could go. We would be able to trudge on, because robotics, like, remember we looked at that one episode, I forget how long ago, we showed that little video of the Elon Musk robots, and then I showed that is it MIT that's in Boston that I showed that little video of the robots.
That was about 7 months ago, I think.
Yes, and I said we need this. This is what we need in order to get over the hump, because supply chain is out of freaking control. I know Gary posted a comment back up here. Let me see if I can scroll up and find it. He was talking about at his family's restaurant, the price of oil is just unbelievable. I think he said, here it is. He said, family restaurant, fryer oil was $22 for a 16-liter jug. So he must be getting that at like a Costco, because we haven't had fryer oil at $22 for a long time now. And now that same 16-liter jug is $57. And it's only going to get worse, because we get most of our imports on oil come from overseas. And I've heard that it's the Southern Asian countries like the Vietnams, the South Koreas, those kind of places where they grow a lot of the stuff that produces either the canola or the soybean and all that sort of stuff, all the oil that's produced, like for frying, specialized oil, peanut oils. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's grown over there. They're now holding back and only shipping what they feel that they can let go of in their country, and so they can support their own country at this point in time. So again, it goes back to that supply and demand conversation. We're tipping the balance of we have a bigger demand and not enough supply. That makes sort of sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I mean, the big thing too with robots as well is there's just the efficiency that they're going to bring to it. You're also going to look at healthcare costs going way down, because you don't have to pay insurance on the robots, and they're not going to be hurting themselves. They can handle all the heavy stuff, no problem.
Yeah.
If you've got robots loading up all of the airplanes too, that's better security, and probably people aren't going to have their luggage get misrouted very often.
Right.
So there's a lot of pluses, I think, to going with robotics, but we will displace workers. That's the only downside. So we'll have to find some place.
They had their chance.
No, but I forget that comment, because I think they've already proven to us that they've moved on. I honestly,
yeah. But the ones that are still there would then be,
you know what we will need them for? I think it'll just shift. Here's what I think.
Laboratory tests?
No. We need critical thinkers. Because remember I said, it was about 3 weeks ago, I told you guys about my situation at the airport where my luggage came down and through the scanner thing, and the scanner was broken, and everybody's luggage came down the thing, and it went over to the specialty side,
Mhm.
and there was 3 people standing there that take that off, and then they scan the little tag, and they're supposed to go through your stuff to see what it is, why it is that what they're worried about that's in your bag. But they were all doing the same thing. They were scanning it and going, "Oh, there's a problem with the scanner," and they all would walk it back up, put it back through, and it was all of it was just keep going down. The ability to critical think and problem solve in the moment is where I think the robots can't do. They can do a lot of the rote heavy lifting. You show them a pattern as long as the pattern doesn't shift too much. Like I watched one technology. We've got a new salad arm thing. Like it's a little robotic arm and it can go and make salads. We're calling it Elfie. It can make anything, but primarily what I've seen it do. So it has the ability to claws and as it picks up, like it looks like a pair of tongs. As
Mhm.
it picks up, it knows what the weight of it is. So if a salad has a 2-ounce portion of romaine lettuce, then it knows it's got 2 ounces of romaine lettuce. It's very precise that way. If it says 4 ounces of chickpeas, it uses a scoop, it pulls up 4 ounces of chickpeas because it can tell the weight. The whole thing, very, very, very precise. But
Mhm.
if it got to the point where there was something on there, sorry about this.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, Tim's getting up to deal with the dog.
With the
Um,
dog. Okay.
if it was something on there that required some critical thinking, like, oh, there's a gluten allergy on here,
Mhm.
or maybe they could map out a gluten allergy, maybe they could map out a dairy allergy.
Mhm.
But if it was a gluten allergy, a dairy allergy, I don't like this, and I would prefer not to have that, and oh, I need, like, if there's way too many, and maybe
Well,
I'm
here's
not
the thing,
thinking.
though. Here's the thing. A lot of these robots are now coming with new AI technology. AI is absolutely mind-boggling. I've had conversations with AI, and it's very hard to not to realize that you're not talking to a person. Sometimes they learn because they learn from everything.
Mhm.
And then you have a system. And keep in mind, if one AI on, let's say, at an airport, if one AI learns some new variation of something that has occurred, they're probably going to transfer that information to all of the AIs at that airport. So
Yeah.
it's like almost like a hive mind in a way. But that's one of the beautiful things. And I think as well, you take a human. A lot of people, when something completely brand new happens, they're like, what do I do? Where's the guidebook? Is it in the guidebook?
Right.
Um,
So you're right about that. I think Ken's come up with the one thing that it may be the thing. This is what it yeah, Ken might be right on this. Here, Tim, hold this so you're in the picture too. So what if like the robot can pick the bits, but I'm not sure it could identify yet. Oh, that lettuce looks wilted or brown, or that's not arugula. That's romaine. Like, I'm not sure it can do the critical thinking to know the species yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. To your point, Candace, because I think it gets better and better at it. I mean, if a computer can identify the difference between a Rosa Sharon tree and an apple tree, because it knows by. So maybe I'm just way off base. Maybe, just maybe, this is going to be best, right?
well, let's just say, there's enough analysis tools that a robot will be able to tell the exact color, probably better than we can. You take somebody who's colorblind, they probably wouldn't have as good of a chance at, sorting a bunch of colors as what AI would be able to do.
Right. Maybe another example, because now I'm just trying to think all this through. Maybe another example that a robot couldn't do was it couldn't identify, like sometimes by smell, we can identify if something's off or turning, or sight, like a hollandaise sauce that splits. Like
Mhm.
a person can look at that and go, oh, the hollandaise sauce has split. I'm
Right.
not sure a
But
robot could look at that and go, oh,
okay, but
hollandaise
here, let me take the robot side. All smells are basically molecules. They're specific molecules that come into your nose. And once again, a robot would probably be able to detect something going bad well before your nose could.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I'm wondering if it can detect bacteria growth too, because the big thing for, especially in restaurants and stuff, is, you know, hot stuff needs to be held hot, cold stuff needs to be held cold. You can ask Tim Danter how much of a nutcase I am when we go to an all-inclusive resort. I bring my thermometer with me, and if there's not a thermometer on the gauge, and I can see the pan doesn't have ice in it, I'm like with my finger underneath the pan going, oh, it's not cold enough, and I'm taking my thermometer out and I'm testing it, because hot food should be held hot, cold food should be held cold, and it scares me because bacteria can grow just like that. So maybe, just maybe, the AI intelligence would know, oh, the temperature is going down and how long it's been down, and it can predict a probability, I'm sure.
Even better. It's not going to be limited to the same spectrum as us. They're also going to have the infrared. They'll be able to look at things, and they'll be able to see things well before we would ever even know that there was a problem with, for example, temperatures. So once again, that's something it's just a matter of making sure that they're programmed to do all of that and they're given the proper tools. But obviously, in something as regulated as the food service, they would definitely be given absolutely everything they need to make sure that that food is absolutely safe.
Well, okay, here's another thing I thought of, because I like this. You take the robot and I take the other side. So when we're talking, again, critical thinking, how about the people building the recipes? Like a robot might not build, like I do a lot of, I think I'll throw a little bit of this in and a little bit of that in, and chefs in the kitchen will look at something and they can tell, I need just a little bit more garlic, or I'm going to put some shallots in this, or whatever. I don't know that a robot can manage that just the same way.
Right, but you're thinking robot. Think AI. AI it's designed to think on its own. It's designed to actually go outside of the original programming. And that's one of the things that will happen. So will they be able to sort of understand the full complexities of taste? Maybe not, but they may have an entire, human catalog of information on what taste will work. And from that, they can probably have a certain level of creativity with some of the food.
Right.
Especially if you give them parameters. So if an AI is cooking for you and it knows that you like things a little bit spicy, it's probably going to just up the spice level a little bit for you. Whereas if Tim has like a rubber sandwich, a rubber tummy, that probably would lower the spices for Tim.
Correct. Tim doesn't like spicy food at all. Hello. But do you like spicy food? You like food. You like anything. You'll eat dirt. Anyways, we're having issues with this dog tonight. He's like, I got his tail in my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, and what Ryan brings up is that tends to be a general way a lot of people think about it. It's like, oh, we'll trust AI with this, but we won't trust AI with that. And I think it's going to be a curve where it's going to take the general population to trust AI a lot longer. And the reality is a lot of AI will be working behind the scenes, and most people won't even have a clue that they have AI. We're almost at the point now that some of the chat bots that they use are almost impossible to tell that you're not talking to a person.
Yeah.
And that's only going to get more and more difficult. And there will be a point that you just won't be able to tell.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about what CISO 99 says. 3D printers are on the way. Do we think, okay, so we know 3D printers can make anything.
Yeah.
How about, do you think that they can make food?
Eventually.
Edible food.
I think that that's a little bit further down. Like if you ever watch Star Trek, they've got the replicators that can make food, and we'll definitely 100%, we will get there. That will not be an issue. And eventually a 3D printer will replace most retail stores. So for example, how I think it will work is, let's say you want a pair of Nike sneakers. Well, you won't go to a store to buy your Nike sneakers. What you'll do is you'll buy a small little license from Nike to make for your printer to be able to print out a pair of Nike sneakers for you. So that's how Nike would still make their money in a situation like that.
Well, you know what I like about this conversation on some levels?
I just went to a bad spot.
I saw a lady the other day at the Milton Mall when I got my hair done, and she had on a very, very nice dress, and it was very flattering on her. So it was so nice that I said something to her. I said, "That dress is very lovely on you. It's very flattering." And she said, "Oh yes, I know. I've had it in my closet for a long time. It's one of those when you put it on, you just know that you look good in it, you feel good in it." And she goes, "I wish I'd bought 6 or 7 or 8 others just like it, but in different colors." And I have a few tops that I love. I love these tops, but I only have them in one color. And I would get a bunch in a different set, and I'd love to have them with long sleeve. I'd love to take it and just have it slightly tweaked. If it could get to the place where I could go just take a picture of it, put the sizing in so it scans everything, but just ask it to modify and pick fabric, and it prints out a new top. I'm like, can you imagine if we get there though, Candace? Like, I think we will.
Oh, I think we will. Absolutely. Now, mind you, you'll have to, where you're going to be paying most of your money, obviously, well, the printers are probably, I think they're going to probably be cheap eventually, and it'll be all of your materials that you require for printing that will be much more expensive. So it really boils down to, I think right now at this point, you would need a whole bunch of different materials for whatever you want to create. Like I think today's printers, you're limited to certain material, but in the future, that'll get wider and wider. And eventually the technology will get there that we'll be able to make specific materials. So you'll be able to have a whole bunch of different materials that can then be made into other materials. But it's an incredible world if you think about it. Yeah. One of the things I love to think about is when my grandparents, like when I was a kid and I had my grandparents, the technology that they saw at that point, if you were to pull them ahead to the future right now, they would be blown out of their minds with the technology we have today. So think about it. If somebody who is a kid today, when they're an adult, the technology that's going to be there will absolutely completely stammer us. I think none of us have a full-on clue how fast this is all going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because technology has a way. I look at it like a record player. We've used this example to somebody else for a different reason, but on a record, I guess maybe some people don't know what a record player is, but a record player with the big records, you put the needle on the outside and it goes around, and it takes a whole big long time for it to go all the way around. But as you continue down the record, it goes by faster and faster and faster till it's in the middle of the record.
You get the same effect by flushing the water in the toilet too.
Well, and another, actually an easier way to view it is if you look at it as an upside down triangle. So like this. So as you move further up, things just start getting bigger and bigger fast, because that's the way technology has been advancing.
Yeah. Ryan saying he thinks 3D printing will impact housing the most in the short term. Expect a temp army installment or small homeless shelters, camp housing, prefab housing. It was just the beginning. I think he's right. And just to answer SM Finance, Jason Spooner has landed in Calgary. So there's probably some shenanigans going on in Calgary. And if you're in Calgary, I just pray that you all take cover as these two boys whoopty it up tonight. So this is why Ryan's not here tonight. He will be back in the house probably next Wednesday. If Spooner's still there, maybe he's moving in.
Ken's spread on Friday and Saturday would be good if Jason's still there.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Jason Spooner, if you're with Ryan, I attempted to clean up the cleaning supplies in the little cabinet. Just, I didn't have any luck. See if you can have any luck.
He's got a really cool air conditioner now.
Oh, he's got an air conditioner.
Oh yeah, you got to see that set up.
Yeah. Okay, so CISO99 said a 3D printer in China put up a 19-story building in 21 days.
Jeez.
Holy banana bread.
It will displace the labor, which will shift the labor over to other areas.
So, knowing my luck, on day 15, there'd be a paper jam.
You're right. You're right.
There's a joke about that.
I know.
Is there?
Yeah,
So
one of his shorts.
yeah. So Nate has a question. He goes, was there an actual labor shortage pre-pandemic? How are we now more efficient with tech, but in some ways, somehow everything is slower? Well, I don't think we have I don't think all companies and all manufacturers and all distributors and all people are all we're not all teched up yet. We're getting there, but we're now in that icky phase. I would assume if we were living 100 years ago, Candace, when we were in the agriculture era, moving ourselves out of agriculture to industrial, I bet you it felt icky just like this. I bet you there was
100 years ago, we were in World War, it was World War One.
So we were already out of the.
Yeah, we were pretty much into the industrial. Well, technically, let's see. No, we would have just been out of World War One. It would have been over by now, but we'd be in that lull between World War One and World War Two, heading towards the Great Depression. Not to say that that's
20s, right? We would have been in the era of everybody wasn't it indulgence?
Yeah, yeah. That's when that's the time of the flappers. So they're in that 10 years before the Great Depression comes. So the Great Depression was right around the end of what was it, 39. So we're heading in that direction now. Mind you, we've got a recession coming, but I don't think we're going to get to a depression. But it was one of those situations where everything was so flush. People were so convinced, like people were quitting their jobs to just play on the market because there was so much money in the internet. The stock market was just going up and up and up. So people would like sell their houses just to put that money on the stock market. That's one of the reasons when we had the big crash, that was like, it was just like devastating.
Yeah.
Because when it happened, people lost their livelihoods. Nobody saw it coming either.
Right.
And people were just liquidated overnight. And that's why, you had a lot of people jumping from windows and things like that, because it was just, all of a sudden they were living their best life ever, and it was just all gone in a second.
Well, yeah, and that won't happen so much now because if they fall from their windows, they'll just land on their desktop.
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear.
Well, okay, so Nate's got a point. Sounds kind of familiar because honestly, I think there's a lot of people that got overly leveraged and when we saw everything rising, and now we're seeing a lot of this again. And here's the other part of it. Because I work in supply chain and I know what's happening, I would not be surprised at all. And I think I've called a lot of things over the last year. For those of you that have been with us for this entire year and 3 months or however long, I guess 1.25 years. I don't know how long we've been doing this. A year and a half. If you've been following us for a year and a half, I feel like I'm a little bit of the canary out in the coal mine, a little bit going, I think there's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, there's a massive problem. I mean, if you guys remember last week on the show, I told everybody, get off the exchanges. I mean, and since then, we've had 2 more go down.
Yeah.
FTX right now is in the process of buying BlockFi for, get this, $25 million.
That's it?
That's it.
I am so glad I'm out of that.
How bad it is. And quite honestly, if FTX didn't buy, or, if the sale didn't go through, that shows how bad it is for BlockFi, and people could be losing money on BlockFi if they're not getting off of it. So I will say it once again, folks, get off the exchanges. It doesn't matter how safe you think it is. It's better to be safe than sorry. If you don't want to go to a hardware wallet, at least go to a hot wallet, but don't be on an exchange.
So we're in a Atomic wallet. Is that a hot wallet?
Yeah.
Are we safe in there, Candace?
Yeah.
You're much safer than if you were on an exchange, but you're not 100% safe. You're not 100% unless you actually go into into something like Ledger, like a hardware wallet itself. But the odds are you're probably, I would say, 95% safe on a hot wallet. It's just not 100%. And when you're dealing with a lot of money, You like to deal in 100%.
100%. I agree. So thank you. Soraya says Nancy's been spot on. Thank you. It's nice to know somebody thinks.
Nobody's supporting my robot.
I love your robot idea. So Nate's he said this. I spoke to a guy at the gas station because I'm that guy. He said he can't fill his truck up next week. He has no idea what to do. Assuming, Nate, we don't know the age of this person and if they've got any kind of reasons that they can't work, there are so many jobs out there that are desperate for people. I just think that you've got to just can I just say something and not hopefully people don't take offense? Like I really hope I can say this and don't take offense. I think, and I venture to say that Ken the Oracle would agree with this. You know, working hard is not a sin in this world, and working extremely hard, you know, it's not our right to have 2 days off a week. We seem to feel it is, but it's sometimes in life, if you've got no money, if you've got nothing, then you have to work sometimes harder to get where you need to go. I mean, I make pretty decent money, I would say. Relatively speaking, I probably make better money than most. I have not missed, Tim and I have not missed one crypto night in Canada in 1 year and a half since we started doing these. We have been on every single one. I've been working 3 weeks solid straight where I'm up. I'm sometimes getting in the house at midnight and I'm up and out the door by 6 a.m. the next day so I could get to the warehouse by 7. Nonstop, doing my regular job, then going in and helping in that warehouse, plus keeping my side hustles going. Nobody said life was easy. And nobody said that if you want to have all this time off, okay, then you've made a decision that money's not that important to you. Because most of us in this community, we're not independently wealthy. Tim and I aren't independently wealthy. We have to work hard. Life is sometimes hard. It just is. If you need to do something, there is 1,000,001 jobs. And all you have to do is show up and show some initiative, show some gumption, just show up and be pleasant and kind, and people get promoted because that's how bad the workspace is right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Nate Palmatier says he doesn't work hard. Nate Palmatier with his 150 children, being a pastor, having a YouTube, doing full out renovations on his own time in his own house. Nate, I don't know how and doing investments and doing all his own, going out and finding alternative ways to do groceries and stuff. These guys, man, this is what I'm talking about. And I'm sure Nate is exhausted. And yet he still takes time to come on each of our channels to support and do other things for us. I'm sure as a pastor, he's got a lot of people that need his times. This is what I'm saying. And, you know, and Ken, if life was easy, it's not worth living. I know Ken will sometimes I don't remember what time he said he got up, but what he does is like, that's hard work. And then he takes the overtime. And then he's got his YouTube he's trying to develop on the side and his side hustles. And he's got 2 kids and a wife and like, I don't know. Like, thank you, Ryan. Entitlement is like a cancer. I don't know any other way of being because and maybe what happened to us in 2008, where we were hit with that the Great Recession, maybe that changed something in me. We were always hard workers. We were never not hard workers, eh, babe? But I think then we became, and maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm doing life wrong. I've questioned myself on this a lot, like for a while. So I'm not going to say I'm right doing it this way, but I will tell you that when times get tough, we have to redouble our efforts. Sometimes we have to triple our efforts so that, we all have to be thinking that nobody's going to take care of us when we get to the golden age. And if we don't work hard now and we try to squirrel away stuff, I'm not even talking about let's all become multimillionaires. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about, yeah, I'm working hard now. I don't want to be I don't want to have to be the Walmart greeter because I don't have anything at the end of all of this. You know what I mean? I'm just rambling. Candace, you can speak for a minute, or Tim.
No, I think that makes sense. You got to take command of your life, know where you want to go, put in whatever elbow grease is required to get yourself there. There's always a path to the life that you want to have. And sometimes you have to live a life that you don't want to have to get to where you want to have it. And that's where you determine, and that's where your motivation should be that, you know what, to get what I want, this is what I got to do. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And there's Nate. Nate is definitely, he's like superhuman in the amount that that guy does.
But I think if your why is big enough, I do believe that if you have a deep-seated why are you doing it? And that why is important enough. Like, I want to go back here to this comment. At one point, he was working 4 jobs to care for his family because his why is important enough and it's big enough for him. He's got a big mission to figure that out. Some people it's to retire comfortably. I know for Tim and I, having a giant nest egg is peace of mind. What happened to us in the Great Recession, it damaged something in me. I don't talk about it openly. I was a damaged human being for a long time. I couldn't even look at our bank account without having it feeling of needing to run to the bathroom because I didn't know which end it was going to come out. And that was just looking at the bank account. So I get it. If we've got community channel members here that feel like, oh my gosh, we were all investing, the world was so great, and now it's so not great. Tim and I've been there, and it took us a long time to dig out of our situation, but we did. And for me, this is just for me, and you can answer for yourself. Peace of mind for me, having a nest egg, having some money in the bank, and living way below our means. We live in 595 square feet. Like, we live way below our means because peace of mind was worth so much more to me than a big grandiose house. We drive regular cars. I don't have a BMW. I don't have all that fancy stuff because I'd rather take the money that I would spend on that fancy gas that has to go into those fancy cars, and I'd rather have it investing. I hang out with you guys all the time so that I can learn what to do so that I can increase my nest egg instead of decrease. Like, if it was just Tim and I and we were just doing crypto by ourselves and we didn't have this community, I would never we wouldn't be knowing get off exchanges. Like, we talk to each other to help each other out. I'm on a bandstand.
That's all right. And the funny thing with those fancy cars is a lot of people who have fancy cars they're broke because, they don't have the money to afford the fancy cars. They're deep in debt. They're paying huge amounts of interest on car loans and things like that. So a lot of millionaires, if you actually look at them, they look like very regular, down to earth people. They're not out there driving Lambos like some people on YouTube almost popularize. They're the ones who'll have a beat up pickup truck and they'll be wearing the jeans and the just the regular work shirt type thing, because you don't spend money to be a millionaire. You need to know how to, 1, manage the money you have, and 2, how to create a lot of passive income. Most millionaires have about 7 different income streams.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that. So what's funny? Okay, a couple of comments here. First of all, thank you, Nate. And truly, that's from a pastor's from a pastor's heart. Anyone needs someone to listen to, I'm here for you all. Like, if you're in trouble, reach out, because it's everything is cyclical in life, and it could seem like you're in the depths of despair. You just need to move through life a little bit more, and you will find that you'll get around a corner. And I mean, we've been through that. Tim and I know, and just to keep going. It's not worth talk to somebody seriously. So that's number one. Thanks for saying that. The other thing is, I was going to go someplace else with that. Oh, okay. So I went and I treated myself to a pedicure today because, again, I'm exhausted. I have 1 day off, which was sort of off today. We'll use that term loosely. I was off-ish. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go treat myself to a nice pedicure, let somebody rub my feet. And so, of course, I'm in a new town. I'm not in my normal place. So I had to find a new little place to go in and get my nails done. Now, those little nail salons are everywhere. You can see them. They're absolutely everywhere. So don't sigh. This is a really good story, and it has a point that relates to all this. So I was in this place, and it was actually really bougie. Like, I was surprised. I'm like, I just went into it. I thought, oh, there's one. I'll go in that one. And so I opened the door and went in. I'm like, oh, it was really rather upscale for one of these little, like, mall nail places. And I'm sitting there, and now I feel like I've been through a war the last 2 weeks. I haven't even gone into the stories because I'm slightly too traumatized to talk about it. But I feel like I've been in supply chain war for the last 2 weeks. And I'm sitting there in the chair, got my feet in the water, the ladies rubbing on my feet. It was really lovely. And I'm watching all of these other ladies come in their cute little bougie outfits and their tennis outfits and their hair's up, and they're talking about being at their cottage. And we're in a very expensive town now. And so this is what we lived with before we got out of here. Now we're back here. And anyways, so I find it, I'm sitting here thinking, I feel like I've just been through a war. You all don't know how bad supply chain is. You all don't know that, because their life is just going on. Like, okay, I'm coming in to get my nails done. I'm going to go have my Starbucks. I'm going to drive my Audi home. I got to go and have lunch with friends. Da 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 da. Like, they're living their life. And it was almost like I was having a surreal moment. Like, you don't know what's about to happen to you, because you're all here in some kind of a weird insulated bubble that you don't realize what's coming. I felt like I was a crazy person. I feel like I'm living a dual life. Like, okay, it feels sort of like nothing's happening in this building, and they don't know. They haven't been through the supply chain war that I've just been through, that I'm still in. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, there is this one phrase I keep hearing in the community. Oh my God, Nancy's right again. People have those moments every week, I think, where
you have
they see something that you warned us
about. Moments every day.
Yeah, so it is interesting, and it's happening. So, we're in the state that you described 6 months ago.
I give the government and the media kudos up here a little bit, because they said the next rate hike is probably going to put us into a recession. It's the closest thing to saying we're heading to a recession. It's like, let's get this party started already. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get it going and throw it in and let the United States be in denial. But I think the thing is if we go into recession and that the United States is behind us, it's still going to hurt us.
Yeah. Oh, you take it. They're predicting that the second quarter is negative in the U.S. It's pretty much a given. They just haven't fully announced it. So that means that the U.S. is technically in a recession right now. Canada, from the sounds of things, it looks like we're going to maybe just scrape above zero. But keep in mind, we may be in the negative just because every prediction people have, it always tends to be a little bit worse. So if it's a little bit worse, we may have one negative quarter. So technically, if you go by the 2 quarters, we're looking at the fall for our official recession. But here's this other thing. That is that's not an absolute 100% requirement. If the government decides to call a recession, they can do it without the 2 quarters, and it can be based on what's the cascade effect from the U.S. officially being in a recession, because that will hurt us. We are very intertwined, especially on a trade level with the United States. So what hurts them hurts us.
So you're saying, so what you're sort of going down the road to is that we've got to wait for them to call it so that we can call it.
Well, that's one thing. And keep in mind, historically, every time the U.S. has gone in recession, Canada has as well. So there's no way we're not going into a recession. There really isn't.
And Redbeard, I know we're already there. It's just it has to be said out loud by the big boys.
It does. But here's the thing: if that U.S. gets called a recession, then you might as well just say we're in a recession. It may not be official until they call it, but we're in a recession.
Well, and there was 2 key leading indicators that came up, or one major key leading indicator is commodities are now slipping backwards. And they were indicating that if copper has led the way, the second that copper goes down into a negative, it is the total, it would be the canary in the coal mine. It is the leading indicator we're going.
If you want absolute proof, McDonald's in Canada has announced that they're ending their get 1 free beverage when you get 6 stickers for free beverages. So if McDonald's is doing that, things are tough.
Yeah.
Well, and they said that the June sales year to date were down 41% for homes. 41%. Right? And it's like, okay, that's as much as the percentages were big going up, they're massive coming down.
Yeah. And then CISO said that where he lives, the houses aren't moving anymore. The inventory is in the market has just gone way up. Up in Sauble Beach last year, you couldn't even barely get your house listed on the open market before, because the real estate agents were talking to each other. And so stuff was selling before it would come up and it would go down in the same day because there was back end deals going. I was talking to a girlfriend up there who's a real estate agent, and she said she sold one cottage in the last month.
Let me just say, next week on the live show, we will probably be talking about the CPI, because I believe that's coming out next Wednesday in the States. And that's probably going to be bad.
Yeah. Sorry, just 1 second. Anyways, Nate said I read in Bloomberg that if we hit recession, we are cooked, and it will be harder for us to get out. Also, this climate change policy is killing us, and oil. Well, okay. Part of the supply chain crap that I'm dealing with is it's like a convergence of a whole bunch of bad stuff all at the same time. Well, I recognize that single-use plastics are a problem. Painting everything with a quick brushstroke without any consultation with anybody is making me the most crazy in all of this, because let's just talk about one product, one situation. Think about the McFlurry. I want you to think about this for a second. So that machine that makes the McFlurry, it has that plastic spoon that is the fitting goes in. They've thought out how to, in a very quick, efficient, sanitized manner, put that little spoon up there to zizz it around. It comes down. You got the spoon, everything. Now you could make, how many of those McFlurries can they make really quickly because they have the sanitized spoon? What is going to happen to all kinds of equipment that's like that was designed for speed and efficiency? I'm not saying that it's not the wrong, like it's not the wrong activity to be thinking about getting rid of single-use plastics, but the deadline for these things, like what is McDonald's going to do? Like I'm asking these questions. What's McDonald's going to do? But I could ask that for a bunch of other industries that have built a whole, so what, we're just going to take the McFlurry out of the equation?
It's hard to say. Yeah.
How do you retool that thing? How do you build another piece of equipment that can do that fast and efficient? Like, what's going to happen is we're going to overload the pulp and paper sector to be able to get up to speed for all the to-go containers that are going to be required, all the packaging, the paper wrappers, the
paper straws.
Right, the straws. Well, the paper straws. Those stupid paper straws, they disintegrate. Like,
I wonder what industry and restaurant chain will give a discount for people who bring their own takeaway container.
That would be a good idea, but
Wouldn't that be a marketing scam? Bring your own takeaway container and save 15%.
The only problem with that, though, is because it's fast food and you want to move it really quickly. Having employees have to fiddle around with people's Tupperware and stuff to put food into it, I just don't think that would fly for that reason.
No. And not only that, but how do you sanitize it?
You spit on it. But what you do is you put it on a conveyor belt that comes through. As it comes through the kitchen, employee plops the stuff on. You hold on to your own lid. It comes out of the conveyor belt. There's mine. I take it, and I'm in charge of my own.
Dear God, a bunch of teenagers working at McDonald's are just not that organized. It would be chaos. Unless they had robots.
See, all of this, I get that it has to be done, but it's no different than it's no different than converging at the exact same time that we're going to put all electric vehicles out, like California, and they're not going to allow the sale of any kind of non-electric vehicle. And what they didn't do was they didn't ask things like the people that produce the cement mixers. Do you have a battery that is strong enough?
No, they don't.
Exactly. But the government didn't ask those questions. So yes, there should be an initiative to drive for change, but industry needs time to be able to sort through and figure out how to drive that change. It can't be done as quick as they want. So here you go. Just 1 second, because I'm on a roll and I'm thinking this through. So you know that the whole McDonald's McFlurry spoon thing. You think about, I've just been through an apple juice crisis that I don't even want to talk about because it gives me PTSD about the stupid apple juice. All year, couldn't get the apples, couldn't produce the apple juice. Then we finally be able to get the apple juice done. Then we couldn't get the little aluminum foil lids for the apple juice. Finally get that done. Now the government's banning single-use plastics. So that same apple juice and you all know what I'm talking about, those little itty-bitty apple juices that have to go into the hospitals, that whole thing just rotates in as one pain in the ass problem after another. What are they going to do? Here's the crazy thing, because the aluminum foil lid took them so long to get a constant supply, they bought a boatload so that they could do that. And now they're not going to be able to get the plastic lids. Like, the absurdity of what we're doing to industry here, it's just freaking mind-boggling.
Yeah. No, I would agree. They need to put a lot of things on pause. I mean, yes, climate's an issue. We have definitely seen that, but we need to sort of fix the economy and then try to work the climate objectives in without absolutely handcuffing everybody.
Yeah, there's no stakeholder conversations ever. I think Nate's right. The problem is policies are based on public outcry, and so they don't. So they want to get that out quick. Yes.
Yeah, the environmentalists are loud. They're a very loud group.
So are the people that decided that Roe v. Wade was a good idea too. But we're not even going to go there because that just makes me mad. But it's the same thing. It's that same thing that Nate said, is that policies are based on public outcry, so they want to get those done quickly because somehow that they think that it buys votes. You know, they show up like it is a problem, but you can't just mandate something where you haven't given enough time for people to figure out how they're going to accomplish this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, if anything, you should be phasing things in, not just an all or nothing. It'll be like, okay, we want to reduce single-use plastic by 10% this year, maybe another 20% next year. and then work with the industries who are in a position that they can do it easily. And that gives the industries that have a much harder time adjusting things, like maybe McDonald's and their McFlurry, a bit more time to figure out a way to get around it.
Right. But here's the other thing. Okay. So let's talk about plastic bags that you get at the grocery store. Okay. How many years ago was it that they tried to do this exact same thing? Then all the grocery stores started charging you a nickel a bag. And some of them started bringing in paper bags. And then we all got used to bringing our own bags, the containers and all the rest of it. Okay. Completely get it. Now they want to ban single-use plastics. Totally get that. We won't have plastic bags anymore. What do we do? So there's two problems. Now you got paper bags as your alternative for somebody that doesn't bring in their own container, which is what we had when I was a kid growing up. We all had paper bags. We use paper bags for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a lot more costly than the plastic bags. So you go back around in the circle that all those costs have to be offloaded to the end consumer. So what does that mean? Everything we buy is going to be slightly more expensive because now we're using paper. And do we really, really want to be cutting down our trees to be making bags to carry stuff home? And then don't even get me started. What are we get? Our single-use plastics include doggy doo-doo pickup bags. What do we do about that? How are we going to pick up the dog poop? Seriously. Then you're going to have all the environmentalists are going to turn and go, there's so much dog poop all over the place. Yes, you banned our way of picking up the dog poop.
Well, wait a minute. What about condoms? They're single use.
Yes. They're latex, though. Latex is plastic. Oh my gosh. Now we're going to have unwanted pregnancies that have been banned.
Holy banana bread. Yeah, that's a little bit of a conundrum.
Well, and as Nate says, pulp mills don't pollute the environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny. I mean, just 20 years ago, if I went into a superstore with a backpack, I'd have to have it searched and I'd have to take it off and put it in a little cubicle. Now, if I go into a superstore or a Loblaws with a backpack, they're like applauding me. It's like, yes, you're doing it for the planet.
Yeah. Gary wants to know, what are we going to do about diapers?
Back to cloth, man. That's how I.
Okay, but if you're an adult in an incontinence product, we're going to have ginormous adult-sized poopy diapers going into where? We're going to be laundering them.
Depends.
What kind of laundry soap are we going to have to use? We already don't have enough people to manage through changing those in long-term care facilities.
Bamboo, it's going to become bamboo.
I mean, what about somebody with a colostomy? I mean, that's single-use plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, just going out there. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think, though, those things are pretty much not going to be included in this blanket thing right now. I think, but, you could take it really to a far extreme if you wanted to.
Well, I think we have, because now we're back to the no condoms. They're really kermuffining women because there's no.
I don't think they're going to ban condoms, though.
But isn't that single-use plastic?
Yeah, but
but most guys are now addicted to the internet and they're just not getting it as much. So it's probably not an issue.
Well, we don't really. Well, it's one way to. You know what? Honestly, if we ban abortions and we ban condoms, it's one way to solve our population problem.
Well, yeah, it depends on where you are. Nova Scotia has a negative population. So.
You kill me, Nate. You kill me.
But then we'll have a whole pile of children roaming around that are going to require, I don't know, diapers. Well,
no, I mean, you could always just adopt children from the States. They're going to have a surplus. So.
Well, and here's Nate, and IV needles are plastic now.
Yeah. Once again, that's not something they're going to ban.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll switch back to metal, but I think plastic is easier to. It depends on. I think they throw them away. I don't think they autoclave them, but the metal you can autoclave and reuse. So. And for people who don't know what an autoclave is, it's a really, really hot oven that will basically cook any kind of microorganisms on the material.
long as they're run by robots, so they know that all the
Oh, what?
bacteria is gone, because then we're gonna have everybody all up in arms because they're crying, "Oh my God, cross contamination!
Mhm.
Did you get a needle that was not autoclaved properly?" Like all of these things, man. It's like, okay, and again, we're gonna go back to the nail salon example today. What I liked about this nail salon place was, some people say those little nail salons, they're dirty and you could pick up like foot fungus because they've got those, it's the same bowl being used over and over. This place actually had what looked like a shower cap but bigger for the little basin. So they would put that on and then the water would go in. So you kind of had a sanitized thing. Well, they're going to ban
Yeah.
that. They're going to ban that because
Mm.
so now I go back to having my feet going to get bacteria, like all of these things.
You can just get Tim to watch a YouTube video on how to do a pedicure, and he can do it for you.
No, we've tried things like that in the past. He keeps saying, "How much does that cost? Just go get that done." Anyways, well, let me just see. Ryan says, looking back, that turtle has had more impact on the planet Earth than maybe any other animal ever outside of humans. Remember, he'll never forget that poor little turtle that had the
What turtle?
well, that was the ad. That's why everybody's all up in arms about it, is because these turtles have been found. They what was it? Was
They're
the
like plastic.
Ryan the one
Wasn't
that
it
had
like,
the
yeah, had,
plastic?
and it was all embedded in the shell and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what does this tell us? We are caring human beings, and we're trying to figure out how to save our planet. But again, we have to think everything all the way through to the very end,
Mm-hmm.
because it's every decision we take has a ramification. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's unexpected. But making broad sweeping strokes, it's no different than there's many of the provinces have been mandating to the health authorities that they want all the health authorities to buy local. They're mandating 25 to 30% of their spend has to be on local goods and services. Makes sense in theory. Sounds like a good plan. I'm a provincial government. I want to support local. Where's the pitfall in that, Candace?
Well, it's usually going to drive your prices up.
Prices are higher.
Mm-hmm.
We don't manufacture things in this country, not much. So what they deem as local might not be, like Nova Scotia, for instance. There's a lot of potatoes are grown in PEI, but because that's not Nova Scotia, that's out of province, that isn't deemed local. So they've got local province, they've got local Atlantic Canada region, and now they're trying to expand the scope to saying local Canada. But the thing is that, yeah, okay, you want local apples. Perfect. How do we supply a business that big with apples, with orchards, that you can't just start an orchard and think you're going to produce enough for institutions that large? So how are you going to fund or subsidize farmers? Because to get a full orchard up and running, I dare say takes 7 to 10 years. You can put a twig in the ground. It takes a few years for it to become a tree.
Yeah. Though in Nova Scotia, we have a lot of orchards.
Right.
The Annapolis Valley's a lot of apples there.
Right. So, but if they're already built for crops elsewhere, like they've been promised those, as I said to you in previous episodes, that's all been promised to other things.
Yeah. Or an early frost or some kind of a natural thing can really throw a monkey wrench into that.
Yeah. Anyways, thank gosh we have Jill, because she's looked it up and it seems to be limited to cutlery, plastic bags, and straws.
Which is good. Which is definitely good.
That's good. Anyways, so on that happy note, I think we've had some great conversation tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've missed our other crew members, but they've been participating avidly in the chit chat.
Mhm.
And I very much look forward to chatting with them again next week. Candace, what do you got on tap coming up?
Got a lot on tap. Tomorrow, I got a video dropping on, what are a few mistakes or things I may have done when I initially started investing. So we'll take a look at where I've gone off the path every so often. Saturday on the second of our, basically it's this week, the video edition. We're going to do our Nothing Burger Awards. So basically, the top nothing burgers from the first half of the year. Then, of course, then the live stream and video again next Monday, and we just keep it going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, really good. Please, everybody, keep your fingers crossed that we can keep workers working in industries. I feel bad for the airports. I feel bad for any of you that are going to try to get out there and travel. If you've got anxiety medication, make sure that you take it with you, because it is very anxiety inducing in there right now. And best advice: small carry-on, direct flight. That's my best advice. Dealing in there,
direct flight, huge.
With a small carry-on. Don't try to get into the luggage going anywhere. Anyways, it's been a real interesting, eye-opening experience, and hopefully next week I'll have better things to share. I canceled my trip to Calgary. Sorry, Ryan. I won't be able to see you next week. I'm not coming anymore.
Oh, no Stampede. Oh,
I know, the Stampede. I'm needed in Ontario to try and help this supply chain challenge. And I didn't want to try and get in the airplane and try to navigate what's going on at the airport. It was giving me like.
The last time we went out west, you brought a wonderful gift home.
Oh yes, the last time I went out west, I brought the cooties back with me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And on a positive note that we can end things on, the Stampede in Calgary usually brings about $500 to $525 million into the local economy. So that's good for the Calgary retailers.
Good.
I just hope we can get them food over there.
Well, there's lots of livestock.
But no French fries. And, well, I can't even get started on all the things that
tofu. There's tofu.
Nobody likes tofu, Tim. Nobody likes tofu. Even the vegans, I don't think, like tofu.
Is that what you get out of the hoops, tofu?
Have a nice evening, everybody. It's been great spending time with you. Thank you for spending time with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, everybody.